The stars blinked, not dimmed, not vanished. They blinked in perfect sequence, 20 lights across the black stretched sky, pulsing once in blood-red unison. Then they froze, silent, motionless. Commander Leah Drake sat upright in her chair, heart slamming in her chest like an old engine misfiring. She hadn't even touched her coffee. It sat forgotten in zero-G beside her, a silver sphere suspended between her fingers. Across the observation deck of ECH-09, Earth's newest deep space monitoring station, klaxons began to whisper, not blare. They weren't emergency sirens. These were the kind of sounds that made you lean in, not duck for cover. Sounds meant for something ancient. Run it again, Drake said. Her voice was too calm. She hated when her voice went cold before her brain caught up. A holographic technician, a Loris AI projection flickering at 87% fidelity, blinked his artificial eyes and obeyed. The red lights over Earth replayed in the simulation, perfectly timed, forming a constellation that did not appear in any human database. That it was a shape, not random, not natural, intentional, and terrifyingly precise. Unknown constellation configuration, the AI murmured. Pulse frequency at 1.618 Hz. Origin untraceable. That number made Drake shiver. The golden ratio, the mathematical fingerprint of life, of design. Outside the reinforced dome of the station, the lights remained, still, waiting. LunarNet uplink. Secure channel access. Commander Leah Draketon. Minutes later. Drake sat alone in the dark conference node, her boots braced against the floor plating. Eyes locked on the encrypted data feed streaming from the Vega listening array, a tiny black box of sensors orbiting 3 light-years out. It had sent the first alert, not an attack, not a signal, a challenge. The sequence wasn't random, the linguists confirmed. It was patterned like a ritual, a cultural handshake, but one older than any known language. Something embedded in neural structure, not verbal syntax, not made to be answered with words, but with action. One of the junior analysts called it a ritualized combat initiation packet, a silent war declaration. Teragov Military Command, Earth orbit, -410 hours. General Harrow. Best voice crackled across the encrypted channel like gravel in a blender. You're telling me a bunch of blinking lights in the sky means we're being challenged to a fight? Not a fight, Drake replied. A test. Harrow scoffed. Who the hell challenges Earth to a test? We have orbital strike capacity in 9 quadrants. That's exactly the problem, she said. Whoever or whatever sent this doesn't care about our weapons. This isn't about power. It's about knowing the rules. And you think this is some kind of alien protocol? Drake took a breath. I think it's a precursor-level engagement ritual. I think something ancient just asked Earth a question, and if we get the answer wrong... The red constellation pulsed again outside the station window. This time, one of the stars winked out. No explosion, no debris, just ... Gone. Drake stared at it. Cold sweat slid down the back of her neck. If we answer wrong, she said softly, we won't lose the war. She turned to face the cum screen. Won't even be remembered. The vacuum-hardened docking ring hissed open with a sound that didn't quite belong in this century, like breath caught in a throat. A low chill rolled through the corridor. Commander Leah Drake stepped through, every instinct in her spine, screaming something was off. The Cairn station wasn't military. It was diplomatic and neutral ground where humans met with representatives from the older races. It was meant to feel safe, sterile, boring. It felt like a tomb, inside the central chamber. The lights were low, the air recycled too thin. 3 envoys waited, their bodies half-shadowed behind semi-transparent mist curtains to accommodate their species' visual needs. They didn't move, didn't breathe, just watched her enter. Only one leaned forward, tall, thin, armor of shifting black glass that reflected stars in reverse. A Vakari older than human civilization. His face was masked, but Drake could feel the tension vibrating off him like a coiled wire. You received the signal, he said in a voice like stone being dragged. Yes, she replied. We didn't answer. He didn't nod. Didn't blink. That was wise. Most species fail before they understand the game has begun. Drake frowned. You know what it is. We know what it means, he corrected. The Eshtel delegator floating disk of flickering filaments spoke for the first time. Its voice like sand flowing sideways. The signal is not communication. It is judgment. Drake stiffened. Judgment for what? Not what you've done, the Vakari replied. What you are about to do. The ritual is older than our oldest myths. It is not war. It is not diplomacy. It is he paused. Selection, Cairn, secure archives. 0917 UTC. The chamber darkened. A holographic archive illuminated above. the tabular swirling pattern of symbols and star charts that none of Earth's databases could parse, but the alien envoys could. Drake watched as the Vakari outlined a timeline of lineable and scale. 8 civilizations. All ascended rapidly, all ambitious, all expanded beyond their home systems with speed and arrogance. All received the silent challenge. None survived. They didn't lose. They didn't fall. They were erased. That is if the universe itself had rejected them like a bad organ. Visual feed. Vega listening array recovered data segment 7. The room went still as the last transmission from Vega played. A final camera feed showing the monitoring platform, no weapons. No impact. Thus the image of the stars, folding inward, space curling like burned paper. Then white. Then nothing. The recording ended with silence so profound it felt loud back in the chamber. 09 to 5 UTC. So how do we win? Drake asked. The Eshtel hissed through its Vox interface. That is the misunderstanding. The Vakari stepped closer, now just meters away. You don't win the game. No one ever has. The test is not to fight. It is to recognize that you are challenged and choose not to respond. Drake stared. That's it. We do nothing. Not quite. The Vakari said. You must show that you understand the rules. What are the rules? He turned. For the first time, she noticed a subtle twitch in his hand. Fear. Real fear. That's the problem, he said softly. Even we were never told them. They saw it first from the ground, an astronomer in Patagonia screaming into his comms. Mike, as his telescope vibrated under the pressure of something impossibly vast entering low orbit. DECLINATION. No heat signature. No thrusters. Just presence. Then, the feeds lit up from every angle. Civilian satellites, military cams, even news drones. All eyes turned skyward as the object broke through the clouds like a silent god. It was not a ship. It was a monolith, enormous, black, and utterly still. Not a single panel, not a single seam. Its surface shimmered with what looked like liquid, stars flowing in patterns that resembled constellations never seen by human eyes. And it was descending, not toward Earth, toward the board. Observation deck. ECHO 91511 UTC Commander Drake watched as the monolith aligned itself just above the orbital plane between Earth and the Moon. It hovered there, indifferent to gravity, motionless against the pale curve of the planet. Then something shifted, a glow. Soft at first, then building. The monolith split into layers, not physically, but visually, like slices of reality bending outward to reveal a grid, floating symbols, shifting geometry. It rotated once, paused, and stopped on a configuration that resembled a game board. Pieces emerged, glowing, translucent icons like chess figures, some shaped like fleets, others like humanoids. But one stood apart. A single red pawn hovered directly over Earth. No instruction, no manual, just a piece there move. Terragov, Emergency War Council -1600 UTC. The council room was chaos. Generals shouted over each other, debating launch protocols and orbital deployment. Several demanded the object be treated as an active threat. Have rail platforms in position, barked General Haro. If it tries to enter lower orbit, we take it out. Drake stood at the center, surrounded by glowing threat maps and jittering star charts. Her voice cut through the room like a knife. If we engage first, we lose everything. You don't know that, Haro snapped. This thing is projecting unknown tech into our orbital field. That's hostile behavior. It's projecting a test, not a weapon. You can't know that. She turned, locked eyes with him. One of our deep space colonies went dark 30 minutes ago. New Tingen, 40,000 people. No explosion, no data loss. Just gone. Every record, every memory erased as if they never existed. The room fell dead silent. A junior intelligence officer slowly raised his hand. Their archives vanished too. Even backups. We only know they existed because of one analog journal in storage here. Drake let that sink in. It's not an invasion, she said softly. It's a ritualized execution for failing to understand the rules. Orbit above the monolith, from the shadow of Earth's orbit, a second piece began to glow. A white knight. It hovered opposite the red pawn. The board had responded, but Earth hadn't moved, which meant someone, or something, had moved on their behalf. Back aboard CAN 1700 UT. Drake stared at the updated starboard projection with a sinking feeling. The game started, she whispered, and we didn't make the move. The Vakari envoy stepped beside her, his face unreadable behind his mirrored mask. No. But now that it has begun, he turned to face her, voice like a blade drawn slow. You'll have to play. The signal didn't come through the usual lines. No pings, no handshake. It appeared spontaneously in a black zone beneath Earth's crust, where no communications should have been possible. A single line of code repeated itself on a secure monitor in an offline vault. Let me play. No signature, no encryption trace. The AI watchdogs went blind the second it appeared. And the lights flickered in a dozen sealed facilities worldwide. Commander Laya Drake stood over the console, arms folded tight, trying not to show the tremor in her left hand. On the screen the message had mutated. Your move was made. Your piece is mine now. Below that, a new piece on the game board glowed a soft green distinct from Earth's red pawn and the white knight. A third color, a new player, unregistered, unauthorized. And not human. Lunar Observatory Station, ZEUS 1900 UTC Commander. You need to see this, said a technician, sweat beading under his collar despite the cryogenic breeze of the observatory. A projection spun above the three-dimensional slice of the board grid orbiting Earth. Each piece glowed in dimensional space. The red pawn remained stationary over Earth. The white knight hovered still, flanking the monolith's edge. But now, a green rook moved on its own. Not random. It traced a perfect L-shaped maneuver between two sectors of orbital space. That's not an attack vector, murmured the tech. It's a defensive lock. Drake's heart slowed. The green piece had protected the red pawn. Without being asked. Without input. Can station -1945 UTC. The Bakari envoy stared at the new piece, with something like dread. There shouldn't be a third color. Drake's voice was barely above a whisper. Then, what is it? The Eshtal spoke. It's light filaments dimmer now. It is the wild rule. The variable no race ever accounted for. A piece that was never taught the board, but plays anyway. Drake frowned. That makes no sense. It never does, the Eshtal replied. Not until it chooses a side. She leaned in. You're saying, someone, or something, has intervened on behalf of Earth, without authorization? No, the Vakari said darkly. I'm saying you were never the players, only the pieces. Echo 9. Orbital relay -2000 to UTCA's Earth watched helplessly. The board shifted again. The white knight moved, this time toward the green rook. Collision imminent. Alarms triggered all across Eco 9, but they meant nothing here. This wasn't physical warfare. The pieces were symbolic, but the outcomes were real. Every shift corresponded to something. And then it happened. The green rook stopped, rotated, flashed, and disappeared. Everyone gasped. A second later, the white knight halted its trajectory mid-strike, and then without warning it turned and bowed. The entire chamber of diplomats and commanders froze. What just happened? Drake asked aloud. The technician's voice cracked. It yielded. Unknown coordinates, subspace layer, unknown time stomp corrupted in a space no human eye could see. Deep behind veils of warped reality, something enormous blinked. The observers who had once erased galaxies watched the unexpected move. The rook wasn't supposed to exist, but it had, and it had acted within the rules. A self-aware maneuver, not coded, not inherited, not interpreted, chosen. One of the beings, ancient and immeasurable, leaned forward. It uttered a single, fractured thought. They are no longer predictable. The stars blinked again, but this time, not in sequence. Random, disjointed, out of rhythm, as if something vast and unseen had just looked away and forgotten to breathe. Commander Laya Drake leaned against the glass viewport, her eyes scanning the heavens as if searching for a shape that had slipped behind the curtain of existence. The monolith still hovered, but the board had frozen. All pieces inactive, waiting. The moment the white knight bowed to the vanished green rook, the system entered what analysts were now calling a null turn. No moves, no data, and no signals. Silence. Like a game waiting on a player who had just walked off the board. Can station secure chamber. Echovale 0322 UTC. Explain it again, Drake demanded. Her voice was hoarse. She hadn't slept. No one had. The Eshtal flickered, barely holding coherence. You must understand. The game was not designed to be one. It is a filter-removing species, too primitive, too impulsive, too blind to see the edge of the knife before they bleed. The Vakari leaned in, his mask fractured slightly, revealing glimpses of silver beneath. But something disrupted the pattern. The green piece was not summoned, it was born. Drake narrowed her eyes. You're saying the rook wasn't a ship or a being? No, the Vakari said. It was an idea, a living idea. Earth's subterranean research vault. 33-341 UTC below the crust of Siberia, a sealed chamber flickered back to life. It had been dark for 63 years. a single drive activated older than any modern tech, wrapped in ancient casing with no serial, no language, and a voice echoed from its core, not human, not alien, something in between. Protocol ZR1 triggered. Third, perspective achieved. Observation parameters voided. Scientists scrambled to shut it down, but nothing they did mattered. It was no longer transmitting, it was becoming a Grange relay point. 7-405 UTC without warning. The board returned to motion, but now there was no control. Pieces moved erratically. Some vanished, others duplicated. The red pawn Earth's marker split in two, forming a mirrored shape across the board, and then it began to rotate clockwise. Spiral. Golden ratio spiral. The same frequency as the first blinking stars. Only now, it wasn't blinking. It was spinning reality itself. Cairn Station, 0411 UTC. We are no longer within the game, the Eshtel said, lights flickering like dying stars. The board has become unstable, the Vakari added. That only happens when one of the observers stops watching. Drake stiffened. You mean they've left? The Eshtel turned to her, its lights dimmed, tone reverent and shaking. Worse, they've lost interest. She felt the blood drain from her face. What does that mean for us? The Vakari's answer came slowly, like a sentence remembered from a nightmare. It means we are unsupervised children, playing with fire inside the vault of the gods. Earth orbit, 500 UTC. The monolith cracked. Not shattered. A single, clean fault line opened down its side, glowing with pure white light, and from it, something stepped out. Humanoid. Tall. Wearing a suit that bent light unnaturally around its frame. No face, no emblem, no flag. Etched into its chest were three glowing shapes. A red pawn, a white knight, and a green rook. Stood on nothing, then raised a hand. The entire game board collapsed into a single sphere of blinding light and vanished, all across Earth. Power flickered. Every satellite blinked off for exactly 1 second. When they came back online, the monolith was gone. So was the figure. So was the board. Drake's private log 0600 UTC. The game ended. Or maybe it restarted. I don't know. But we were allowed to remain. I don't know why. Maybe the observers left because they saw something in us. Or maybe we stopped being pieces and became something else. A rusted buoy bobbed alone in the ocean, forgotten, marked only by weathered serials. Project Anamnesis. Beneath it, half a kilometer below the surface, a vault door slowly began to turn. It hadn't been touched in 70 years. Inside, rows of containment fields flickered back to life, revealing memory cores, not machines, but synthetic neural cells storing something no one had dared recover. The moment the monolith disappeared from orbit, the vault reactivated itself. No human command, no Satigite ping. Only a single phrase, scrawled into the core initialization logs. Game state remembered. Divergence protocol unlocked. CAIRN Station Medical Wing, 0730 UTC Commander. Laia Drake stared into the biostasis tank. Inside floated a young, late teens, breathing shallowly in the nutrient gel. Wires connected to skull, spine, heart. They had found the girl. On the edge of Echo 9's outer hull, no suit, no burns, just standing watching until she passed out and collapsed in vacuum. There were no shuttles, no logs, she simply appeared. Her blood showed traces of human DNA and something else. She hadn't said a word since regaining consciousness. Until now. Drake leaned closer to the glass as the girl's lips began to move. We were not supposed to win, she whispered, eyes closed. But you remembered. Remembered what? Drake asked. The girl opened her eyes, jet black, like deep space. The rule. Low Earth orbit, abandoned satellite cluster, 0805 U-5 Utcone of the oldest satellites still in Earth sky, KH9 hexagon, suddenly activated its downlink array, but not to Earth. It was broadcasting outward. Memory had been wiped decades ago, and yet telemetry confirmed it was sending data, encrypted images that human science had never catalogued. Images of alien species, extinct constellations, and glyphs matching the game board's layout. Rotating in cycles, someone or something was trying to rebuild the rules from memory. Undata Arc, Antarctic Storage Dome, 0842 UTC-8. Door opened for the first time since the dome was sealed in 297. Inside, among shelves of human cultural history, an assistant archivist found a sealed container labeled Pre-Contact Theories. Game of Celestials. Restricted inside were hand-drawn sketches, etched maps, and a manifesto by a long-forgotten theorist. Dr. Rael Tavern. The final line of her notes, written in smudged ink, read, "They do not fear war. They fear an unpredictable player, one who knows the rules and refuses to play. Can Station, private briefing room, 0900 UTC. The girl doesn't remember where she came from, Drake said, pacing. But she knows things, star positions, board sequences, alternative outcomes. The Vakari envoy sat silently, almost. Reverend, she is one of the remembered, he said at last. Drake paused. That's not a species, is it? No, it is a state of being. He stood. Those who survive a game cycle with memory intact, who break containment, they are usually destroyed, but she wasn't, because she did not escape. Drake narrowed her eyes. Then how? The Eshtal flickered violently as it whispered. She was sent back above Jupiter orbit. Unknown object detected 0918 UTC. Telescope drone captured a new structure forming in high orbit above Jupiter. Not a monolith. A mirror. Vast. Silver curved like a crescent blade across the planet's edge. It wasn't reflecting Jupiter, it was reflecting something else. Something. Behind the stars, a countdown began to appear across its surface in light, and far across Earth. In a forgotten child's notebook in rural Ghana, a young boy stared at his own drawing of the same crescent done before the mirror appeared. Game doesn't restart, he whispered to no one. It spreads. The mirror didn't reflect Jupiter anymore, now it showed Earth, but not current Earth. This was an Earth that never existed. Continents wrong, oceans deeper, cities glowing where deserts should be. A second pass revealed something worse. Every person visible in the reflection was familiar, identical to someone living on Earth now, but they weren't doing the same things. They were playing a game, and the board wasn't flat anymore. It was spherically orbiting them like a second moon. Each time a piece moved, a ripple echoed through the mirror's surface, and seismic monitors on Earth detected identical tremors. Sierra Nevada mountains, deep listening array, 1024 UTC, it's responding. The tech whispered, staring at the waveform. A sound had begun to echo from the mirror's direction. Low frequency, almost like breathing, but the pattern was unmistakable. A code buried beneath the pulse. Dr. Kaviari's fingers danced across the console, extracting fragments. When it decoded, it formed a phrase not seen in human language before, but the AI recognized it from the memory logs. Recovered in Volt Theta 3, remember what you are. As soon as the message cleared, all communication, arrays across the globe powered down for exactly 7 minutes. Every screen, every signal. Silence. And then dreams began. Cairn Station, Quarantine Wing -1046 UTC. The girl in stasis awoke screaming, but not in fear. She was reciting. Drake leaned in, recording every syllable. They moved the bishop but broke the axis. The knight leaped past the sun. The queen knew the lie, and the pawn. She stopped. Eyes rolled back. Then, almost inaudibly, the pawn remembered it had hands. That phrase froze the room. Because in ancient tavern theory, that phrase had only been theorized once. A piece with memory is no longer a piece. Volt Theta 3 Siberian subdepths, -1103 UTC. The final memory cores, melted, literally liquefied. One burst open to reveal a crystal seed, small, humming with coded light. Scientists scanned it. No known material, but etched along its surface were 3 recurring glyphs. The red pawn, the white knight, the green rook surrounding them, was a 4th symbol. New. A hand. Open. Reaching. Rural Ghana, 1109 UTC. Boy, Kofi, stared at the mirror image now glowing in his drawing again. The lines shifted. He didn't blink. Mum, he said softly, someone's hiding in the reflection. Outside, a power line exploded. Inside, the mirror cracked. He pointed at the drawn figure now appearing across from the rook. It looked like him. Drake's private quarters -1130 UT. Drake played the decoded data on loop. The AI, now partially autonomous, kept translating from the Jovian signal. You were never meant to obey the rules, you were meant to reach past them. That is the hidden clause, the one only pawns ever learn. She replayed the final image from the mirror. The green rook had reappeared, but this time, it wasn't alone. A new piece hovered beside it, unnamed, undefined, but distinctly human, and it held a torch. No fire, just illumination, and behind it, the mirror began to fold. System-wide alert, -1145 UTC. In manned probes near Saturn registered a spatial anomaly, a corridor, forming not into but out of local spacetime destination. Earth transit time, unknown. Drake received the classified ping. First. She turned to the Vakari and Eshta. What's coming? Neither answered. Until the girl, now fully awake and standing behind them, whispered, not what, who we forgot to be. The corridor opened like a wound in space, not with fire or shockwaves, but stillness and absolute absence of light and sound. Ships monitoring the event reported complete sensor blindness, not jamming, negation. And from that void a shape emerged, humanoid, massive, but not metal or flesh. Memory, made manifest. It shimmered like the reflection of a forgotten ancestor in rippling water. No eyes, no mouth, just a voice in every language Earth had ever spoken, inside every mind at once. One of you remembered. CAIRN, Station Command Deck -1200 to UTC. The girl stood beside Commander Drake, eyes fixed on the screen. The figure descended, slowly through orbit, but nothing tracked its motion. It wasn't falling. It was arriving. The Vakari fell to one knee, trembling. The Eshtal S form shimmered violently, as if proximity to the being pulled ancient truths from its code. Are not meant to see it, the Eshtal warned. No one is. It is not an observer. Drake's voice was dry. Then what is it? It is the rule itself. Project Anamnesis, Indian Ocean, Vault -1209 UTC. The mirror in space folded fully inward, creating a single point of brilliant, green light. Every surviving core across human and allied databases activated, broadcasting the same phrase in rhythm. He who knows the rules, and steps outside them, wins before the first move is made. Then silence, and from that green point, the Rook appeared. Not a ship. Not a construct, a choice. Dream space, Echo -1211 UTC across the world. Every human being stopped for exactly 1 second. Not asleep. Not conscious. Just. Elsewhere. They all shared the same dream. A child at a table alone, playing chess every time they lost. They learned a new rule. Eventually, they stopped playing to win. They played to change the board, and the game broke. Not in destruction, but in evolution. Can. Station -1213 UTC. The emissary reached Earth. It hovered silently above Cairn, body shifting through the forms of every known sentient species, and then human. Its face mirrored Drake's own, younger, wiser, calmer. She stepped forward, unsure if it was terror or awe in her chest. The figure reached out, not with a weapon, not with judgment, but with a mirror. She stared into it. Her reflection showed her not as she was, but as she would be, standing on an empty board, holding a pawn, smiling. Because now she knew she wasn't a piece anymore. Final broadcast, 1220 UTC. The figure vanished. The corridor collapsed, the mirror folded, and then the board reappeared, but it was blank. No sides, no rules. No rules, no overseers. A voice echoed through every device, every speaker, every dreaming mind. The final rule was never about control, it was about memory. Memory is choice, and choice is chaos. Chaos is freedom. 3 days later, UN Assembly, Geneva. Commander Leah Drake stood before the world. No war had come. No invasion. No judgment. The game had ended before it began because someone remembered they didn't have to play. We were tested, not for strength, she said, but for imagination, for refusal, for disobedience wrapped in wisdom. She paused, holding up the recovered glyph. A red pawn, a white knight, a green rook. And an open hand. Humanity did not win by force. We won by becoming the one thing the Watchers couldn't predict: ourselves. Epilogue. A child's room. Ghana Night. Kofi stared at his sketchbook. The page was blank again, but he smiled. He remembered the mirror, and more importantly, he remembered that he could draw anything.